And welcome everybody to another edition here of the Men of Steel podcast here with me, Charles, Prodigy, Richey, as we are streaming live right now on Instagram and YouTube live as we are got a good one in store for tonight. As you just heard earlier today, Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin, they made their pre-draft press conference today earlier at the Pittsburgh facility, Heinz Field. As we are less than 3 days away right now from the NFL draft. And right now, as we take a look at things, it seems to be a little bit less urgency, according to GM Kevin Colbert. As one of the things he has just stated earlier, too, they seem to be a little bit less enthused as far as doing mock drafts. And feel free to let me know how you guys thoughts about that. How you guys feel about that? And again, I'm just kicking off live on Facebook Live right now. Feel free to leave me your comments as we are streaming live. As I said, once again here on the Men of Steel podcast, just had Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin get into their thoughts as we inch closer towards the NFL draft. Again, the number, if you want, feel free and join the Men of Steel podcast. The number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. Make sure you can hit me up on Twitter at Prodigy Richey. That's PRODIGYRICHEY. You can also check me out streaming live right now as we are on Instagram live as well. You can find me there at Men of Steel Nation. I'm in the Steeler Polo holding up the microphone. You can see my contact information there as well if you go on my page. Also, feel free to check out my YouTube channel. And like I said, we got a lot of things to get into right now. And also, too, I want to pick up where I left off. I'm going to get into this towards the end of the show. As we found out last Wednesday, as a matter of fact, right after I did the show, and I want to say thank you again to Tony LaFeo of Behind the Steel Curtain, as he was nice enough to join me as usual. Well, a very good recurring guest, as always, here throughout the podcast, as well as my show I do on CSR on Saturdays from 1 to 2 p.m. I'm also the host of On Deck as we get things kicked off a little bit right here. But, yeah, I got to say, just hearing that press conference earlier today, as I currently took a look at it, and this is just my personal feedback when I look at it. Is it just me, or it just seems like Kevin Colbert, and I know a lot of fans are frustrated with still have a bitter taste in their mouth from giving up Antonio Brown basically for an extra third, fifth, and sixth round pick from the Raiders as you take a look at things. But also at the same time, too, Le'Veon Bell, well, they did not trade, by the way, remember, refused to sign his franchise tender last year. So pretty much really what you got back was just money back towards the cap in about $14.5 million as we take a look at things. But other than that, as we look at things right now, it just seems like it's just a game of chess right now, as it should be, as we take a look at it here. I feel like right now, when you look at some of the comments that Kevin Colbert has made in here, we'll start off like currently saying that they have 74 players on the roster. They're eventually planning to move up to 90 before training camp, so additional 16 more players. And I thought one of the key notable things, too, that was really interesting, I don't know about anyone else, but this really caught my eye, was saying that they got away with mock drafts about 10 years ago, as you really think about it. I thought that was just very interesting to hear that from a guy like Colbert. Maybe he's just being called cool and collected. But I still got to think right now, when you look at the free agent signings that they made this offseason, about over a month ago, when you got a guy like, say, Steven Nelson, who's one of your guys on here, when you really think about it, okay, and then you got Moncrief, you really start to feel right now, where is this thing going at right now at this point in time? I'd say right now, the Steelers, as of this moment, they have definitely got, they definitely feel a little bit more comfortable with who they acquired in the offseason. And it just seems like they're not ruling anything out. But also, too, he also did mention that they're rookies. I mean, he even like diagrammed as far as like with a guy like, say, Terrell Lemons, who actually started off a little bit slow in the beginning, but didn't start really picking up steam until like later in the fall. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, when you flash back about a year ago and you saw some of the guys like an Evans that was being taken off the draft board, being snatched away by other teams when you looked at it. And it was pretty much frustrating when you saw that. But when you really think about it, too, I mean, like, here are some of the targets that the Steelers were looking at when you really look at everything in that order. I mean, when you really see it. I mean, one of the guys that we're definitely looking at as far as defensive-wise, Tremaine Edmonds, inside linebacker. Who did he go to? Buffalo Bills. Then the other guy they were also looking at was Leighton Van Der Esch, outside linebacker. Wound up with the Cowboys at pick number 19. Then you have Rashaan Evans, inside linebacker, who was drafted by the Titans. So when you also look back as far as like the history of their draft, and like not often that they really trade up, but when you look at some of like the historical ones, I mean, he was even like debating like, was it like really worth like when we had a guy like say Santonio Holmes drafted and added to our roster? When you look at it, I really do believe that at this point in time, he even pointed out to say, look, he was eventually the guy who caught the game-winning pass in the Super Bowl 43, which definitely has a huge amount of bearing and stake in that claim right there when you really see it. And no doubt about it. I mean, the Steelers right now, when you look at things, and going back to Terrell Edmonds, he really believes that the signings from the standpoint, rookies that play those positions, he just doesn't want them to be necessarily rushed into action. He's just more concentrated on developing championship teams through the draft. And he even was quoted in saying, in professional football, the best way is to draft and keep your own, end quote. Plug in the free agent where you need. Now, I will agree. I mean, there's nothing wrong with building for the draft, but I think it sounds almost hypocritical in a way, too, where if it's really so true about maintaining your own, are we really saying that guys for who we draft, depending on how well you do you really have necessarily, say, like a 4-year window more so than anything? And I think that's just a real interesting point, because if you really think about it, what about Le'Veon Bell? I mean, he was like 1 year old and they could have maintained, but they didn't. Again, the number to dial in is 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. You can also hit me up on Twitter at Prodigy Richey as we take a look at everything right now. I'm here on the Metal Steel Podcast. You can catch me every Mondays and Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And like I said, I just felt that was just double standard right there. I mean, if you ask me, I just don't feel like how can you say that? But yet, I mean, not like they didn't try the Steinbell. They did. But it was more money in his base salary versus guaranteed. So somewhere you did not close the deal and really make them feel like you were taking care of your own if that was the case. I mean, I understand continuous things like the Steeler way or whatever, however you want to build and just give scraps through free agency. That's fine, but it's almost like I said, it's more of a short window. It's almost really like saying you have 4 or 5 years to prove it, depending what round you're selected. And that's the only part that bothers me. And I just want to ask you right now, as we move along right now, do you guys buy or sell Kevin Colbert's stance on managing social media activity for trying to develop their players in the star talent? And I think they're definitely having in the back of their mind that looms pretty large is Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell's antics. And they're not the only ones going on social media. I mean, if that's the case, yeah, guys speak out a little bit more so, like on interviews, where it was Ramon Foster or Marquise Pouncey. I think they're more under the gun right now, feeling like they didn't do things the Steeler way. And even I had my friend Brian Diarlo of 247 Sports. Once again, he can be followed on Twitter at Brian Diarlo. As we took a look at it, he definitely felt like he believes that the NFL should definitely look into as far. And I hope I'm not misquoting you, Brian. If you're out there listening, I'm sure you are. But it should be a little bit more pay attention how often are players abusing their social media posts. I mean, let's face it. I mean, if we're talking about as far as like, like the personal conduct policy or whatever, I gotta believe that's one thing that's looming large on there when you really look at it. And I can definitely see that. I think for right now, at the most time, it becomes a little bit more deductive than anything. But I mean, you're also trying at the same time to restore pride back in a franchise where it once was. I just feel like they've kind of caught their hands caught in the cookie jar, so to speak. When you look at where they've been at in the last couple of years, I mean, the organization from a whole, when you look at experts and former players around the league who's watched the way the Steelers conduct themselves as a franchise, as an organization, it almost seems like a lot of class has been abandoned. So again, I want to reiterate my question to you. Buy or sell Kevin Colbert's stance on managing social media, developing into player, when he's saying that character isn't a major focus when drafting, but they do look into it. You know what this almost kind of reminds me of? This kind of reminds me of 6 years ago when, 5, 6 years ago, I remember Mike Tomlin when he was coaching. That was like one of the things he said he wanted to kind of like patrol just a little bit was like guys being too much active on Twitter or posting stuff. I remember he was kind of a little bit like that disciplinarian where he kind of said some warnings and stuff. I mean, let's go away from like the social media aspect. I remember one time too, there was a game against New York Jets. And this is the time when the Steelers start off the season 0-4, looking for the first win. This year they almost miraculously somehow ended up making the playoffs. And you had Lee Purtle dive into the end zone for a touchdown by one of their players. And one of the things he was like quick to like know that he said like there will be no more like hurtling into the end zone due to potential of injury. And that was just one example how Tomlin was definitely trying to look out for his crew. I mean, when you really look at things. So I definitely feel like right now, like I said, they're in a situation where they want to like repride themselves. They want to reestablish some ground. They don't want to necessarily be viewed as a franchise that's out of control. And I understand that and I respect that. But at some point, you also got to make your choice right now. It's like, where do you want to be as this franchise continues to like lead in the right direction? I mean, so is it really just more so about philosophy than anything? That'd be my question. It almost seems like where it's getting at this point in time, when you really look at things and start to wonder, like, hey, this is our identity. We're trying to establish our identity here as an organization, as we try and move forward, and as we try and like get back into like winning way, winning tradition, as do it in the black and gold. And I think that's just one of the things that had to be clearly, highly emphasized, no doubt, as we go in here, as we look at it. So my position, I definitely feel like right now with this, I definitely feel like yeah, they're trying to create some form of accountability once again. That's what really tells me. Just the only problem is when you're talking about accountability, maintain your position, guys who bust your butt for this organization, and when you do develop that star talent and they do what you say, what's the reward for them of keeping them peace of mind or sense of security that they're going to be taken care of? That's my stance. I mean, more to answer your question right there as we take a look. But also right now, just got some latest news right now, as we heard earlier as well. Also, too, one of the latest guys that they were scoping out, they did not attend the pre-draft day visit, but he did come out and see them, pretty much from what I heard. Darnell Savage, according to Steeler Depot, there's been a big surge of him possibly in the first this year, the last several days. I remember he's also a safety that's in the draft. He's in the top 10, does well enough when you look at things. Darnell Savage is graded overall a 5.6 in this combine. Chance to become an NFL starter. I think that's one guy, definitely, too, the Steelers are looking at right now. And I would not be surprised if, for some reason, they do decide to take that chance on him. They do decide to throw a little curveball. I'm still under the mindset right now that you look at someone as far as a defensive corner or a defensive back, someone that could cover the length of this field when you really see things. And I think that's just my main concern. I mean, I think I'm just getting tired when watching this team, when you see everything. It's just more about how often are you getting scorched on here on plays. I mean, covering sideline to sideline. I mean, don't be wrong, the 3-4 defense, this is still going to continue to be one of their bread and butters as things go along. But at the same time, too, what's it doing any good if you're constantly getting burned right now as we look at everything? And by the way, and sorry, Chad, I misunderstood your question. Funny comment right there, but no, not the background here. I'm in the studio right now doing this podcast. So thank you very much. Thanks for the laugh, but no, not the idea that you had in mind. But yeah, I thought you were talking about like where was my position at as far as with this team. That's pretty much what I would have to say right now. It's just more so just re-identifying, reestablishing a philosophy, and pretty much that's pretty much where you go right there. Also, let's take a look at this right now. I remember before we get into a little bit further, real quickly, I want to ask you real quick. Leave me some comments. And when you look at Kevin Colbert's tenure here, I want you to just give me your name that stands out the most. What do you think was a better game-changing pick for this franchise? And I'm going to give you two choices right now. And that's just my opinion. Between Troy Polamalu and Ben Roethlisberger. Back-to-back years, safe to say that Colbert's nailed both of those first-round picks. And both of those, by the way, too, were Bill Cowher's under his watch, by the way. And he was working with Colbert at the time. If you had to choose right now, game-changing for this Steelers franchise, Troy Polamalu or Ben Roethlisberger, who would you side with? Who would you say was a bigger first-round pick? Definitely Troy Polamalu. You can look at it in many different ways and how he's helped. Well, if we're to go game-changing for the franchise, I'm probably going to give the edge to Ben Roethlisberger in the situation. And Troy Polamalu was dynamic. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be a little bit on the bubble for being a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. He'll get in. My question is it going to necessarily be a shoe-in first ballot? That's my only concern. Because when you look at a guy like Ben Roethlisberger, think about the history, the timeline, what they went through. You went from over 2 decades from like not finding someone suitable enough to replace a guy in the form of Terry Bradshaw. I mean, really, who did you have in between this time? You had more so. Let's go down the list real quick here. Look at the quarterbacks you had. You had Bubby Brister, Mike Tomczak, Neil O'Donnell. And Neil O'Donnell, outside between Bradshaw and Ben, was the only other quarterback to go to the Super Bowl. Granted, he was running good defense. The only problem was when you're turning the ball over like you did in the Super Bowl and cost your team the way you did, let's face facts. That could have been their 5th right there, their one for the thumb. I definitely believe so. No doubt about it. And I love Troy. I love 43. I love his quick attack at the line of scrimmage, the way he would hurl over people. No doubt about it. But again, I think if you're having a good defense, you need that sexy, aggressive, sexy pick at quarterback. And a guy like a Ben Roethlisberger, it's kind of like saying it's like you have all this good food in your house, but the only thing you're missing is a good chef. The guy that could work with this. And he was definitely one of those chefs on that offense. Granted, he may not have been the leader of that team, but in his first couple of years, let's face it, his dynamic escapability and the way he made plays on the run, that's what he was made for earlier. Before he was getting sacked like heavy later on in his career. And those are the things you pay attention to. And I definitely feel so. So, Troy, I'm gonna choose Ben Roethlisberger. I'm gonna put the poll at the conclusion of this podcast. But you take a look at like some of the number one picks, though, too, outside of those. Let's take a look at a few notable ones over here. I mean, you could definitely make an argument, like, say, Heath Miller, tight end. Still have not found a replacement for Heath Miller. You had Jesse James and Vance McDowell combined. I mean, not so much anymore. Jesse James would be with the Lions for a few years, but Vance McDowell has that physical capability. But Heath Miller, when you needed the ball cut, that was your guy. Santonio Holmes, 2006, Super Bowl MVP. That was a good first-round pick. Lawrence Simmons, good run stuffer. Helped deliver another piece of hardware. Another Lombardi helped give him another 2 more Super Bowls. What one was his career? I mean, then you can also argue guys like, say, Marquise Pouncey, huge star to have at the line of scrimmage for Ben Rossberger to call out plays on the offense. And then, of course, Ryan Shazier, if he would not have gotten hurt, God, I would just love seeing how much higher he would elevate himself. And then, last but not least, TJ Watt so far has been the consistent one, an outside linebacker, one of the leading sack leaders and tackle leaders on this team. I'll definitely say, like, he's definitely been one of the most consistent guys. But anyway, I'm going to get ready to close out this podcast. Right now, I want to get back into the Pittsburgh Steelers 2019 schedule, as I just mentioned. And I definitely feel like this is going to be an interesting one when you really look at things overall. And boy, this is going to be a doozy right here. Starting off on the road, Sunday Night Football against the New England Patriots. It's not going to be easy this time around when you look at it from like about a year ago. Antonio Brown, I'm sorry. He was a big difference in that game. And what you saw Juju Smith-Schuster do in the final game against someone like the Cincinnati Bengals, were the Steelers, when you look at it from their season and what they finished out with, when you looked at like that previous game, they really had to gut out, in my opinion, a hard-fought 16 points. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to give them a loss in that one. I'm going to have to start them off 0-1 right there. That's be a Sunday night game. I think they still got a shot, but without Antonio Brown and just waiting to see Schuster this team on the next level, I'm going to book that one for a loss, safe to say. Hope I'm wrong. Please prove me wrong, Steelers, on that one. Please do. Next up, you got your home opener against the Seattle Seahawks. Remember, this year you're going to be facing the NFC West and the AFC East. And then you got, as far as you got two opponents outside those divisions individually in the Indianapolis Colts and the LA Chargers. Seattle Seahawks, give me the win in that one. They'll go 1-1. They're usually 8-2 at home, which is very noble against Seattle Seahawks. Next, we got an interesting one is we're going to be going on the road against San Francisco. 1-7 on the road lifetime. When you look at Candlestick Park, where they used to play before back in the day, they never played in Levi's Stadium. I got to believe that's going to be a change this time around. Give me 2-1 for that one. Next up, you got your very first Monday night game of the season. You got two Monday Night Football home games this year, which I think is pretty darn cool this year to be seeing. I'm going to look forward to that. I mean, your two Monday Night Football games would be against the Cincinnati Bengals and against the Miami Dolphins coming off their bye. But let's go in on the Cincinnati Bengals game. I will say at this one, give me 3-1 at that one. Then you got at home the following week against the Baltimore Ravens. I'll say give them 4-1. They're playing at home. Then you got to travel on the road against the LA Chargers in LA. That's going to be a Sunday night game. Give me 4-2 at that one. I mean, they got a good 8-6 record, but they match up pretty well. And these guys they signed the free agent, and depending who they draft will definitely be put to the test. Then this is where they take their bye week, and they'll be back on Monday Night Football for their second Monday Night Football game. Oh, by the way, the Chargers, if I forgot to mention too, by the way, it's going to be a Sunday night game. So my apologies for not mentioning that. So, like I said, I got them right now at 4-2 at the moment. Miami, give me 5-2. Then you're going to have the Indianapolis Colts at home. I'm going to have to give that one a loss. I think Andrew Luck finally gets his first win against the Steelers. It's been a long time coming. Give me 5-3. Then you got the LA Rams at home in Pittsburgh. Give me another loss in that one. I'll go with 5-4. Then you got back divisional opponents in Cleveland and against Cincinnati. I'll say give me 2 straight. I think they'll sweep the Browns this year. So give me at least 2 straight that should put them at 7-4 at the moment. Then you got the Cleveland Browns, 8-4. At Arizona, give me 9-4. And then 10-4 at home against the Bills. And this is where it could be interesting. I'll say they'll barely hang on to win this one. No, I'm going to give them back-to-back losses for the season. So they'll lose on the road against the Jets. Le'Veon Bell's revenge game, probably so. So it should put them at 10-5. And then last but not least, in Baltimore, I'll say 10-6. I'll say 10-6. They'll probably get the wild card. I'm not sure about getting the division this year, but that's as far as I'm going to go this year with this team. So give me a 10-6 record, probably no worse than 8-8. All right, well, that's going to do a conclusion for this edition of the Men of Steel podcast here with me, Charles Prodigy, Richey. Just want to say, everyone, thank you very much for tuning in here on this edition right now. And like I said, you can catch me here on Mondays and Wednesdays here at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. There'll be some days where it'll not be every Mondays and Wednesdays during the offseason, but definitely more so during the season. Got the draft coming up in a few days. And plus, I got a very special guest coming up in less than 2 days, supposed to be having on here. Look forward to having her on here. I'm talking about Olivia, and she's a very cool actor right now. Worked on a couple movie projects and a TV series with Netflix. And boy, I cannot wait to have her on. She is from Pittsburgh. Have a little bit of a fun podcast segment with her right there as we take a look at. And one of her series that she worked on was Welcome to the Deadlands. So make sure to check her out. She'll be on this Wednesday. We'll be doing a live stream together. And like I said, she's working on the TV series on Netflix. So get ready. Tune in for that. All right. Well, I'm going to leave it. As always, feel free to tweet me throughout the week. And as we get closer to the NFL draft, I am ready for this. All right. As always, leave you. Don't be trolling. Be rolling. I got. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Thank you for tuning in, everybody.